Hey friends, welcome back to the channel. My name is Kay and today we're going to be reacting to how I learned to code in 4 months and got a job offer, no computer science degree, by internet made coder. So yeah, before we get started, make sure you smash the like button for the YouTube algorithm and subscribe. It will make my day, so why not? Okay, let's get started.
I want to tell you how I learned how to code from completely zero, completely on my own, in just 4 months. And I even got a job as a software engineer after that. I don't have a computer science degree. I didn't do a bootcamp. In fact, I've never paid for any materials I've used to learn coding. Because in this day and age, coding is a skill.
With coding, if you just have a strong mathematic background, then you could learn coding. So like anyone could learn to code if they wanted to. That's the thing.
But you can learn for completely free on the internet. I am proof of that. And in this video, I want to tell you how.
As a coder, Google is your best friend since you could Google anything for free and learn any information that you want from Google. And there's websites like Stack Overflow where you could ask, like, is a software engineering community in Stack Overflow where you could ask a question regarding coding and they will help you with that or something like that, right?
Oh, I did it. So just a few months ago, I had no idea what coding even was. I just had this vague idea that it's something related to typing complicated stuff on a computer to get it to do something. And that's
This is
essentially
typing
what
logics.
programming is. It's you speaking to a computer to tell it what to do. But a few months ago, I had absolutely...
For those who don't know, like, coding is basically you're just writing logics that performs an algorithm, right? You're just writing an algorithm that performs a task to do something. So like, I don't know, an algorithm could be like how to make a coffee and you do the step-by-step instruction of how it works. That's an algorithm. So you just write an algorithm, a logical algorithm on a computer for the machine to understand and convert into a solution, right?
No idea what it is, what all the other languages do, anything related to it. I got the idea of learning how to code after I graduated from university with an economics degree. And most people who do economics end up doing investment banking,
Yeah, and economics is still applied mathematics, so he does have a mathematic background, so he could still convert into computer science. Computer scientist.
and these types of things. And I did an internship at a bank, but long story short, I absolutely hated banking. I wasn't passionate about economics, and I certainly wasn't passionate about working in finance or many of the other industries where
It's a,
economics
like, working in finance is like a repetition process. It's just the same thing again.
But I just hated the lifestyle. The work wasn't inspiring to me. So it was clear that I needed a new plan. So why did I decide to learn coding? I wanted to find an industry where I could still make a lot of money, but also have a more humane lifestyle and work on problems that I'm actually excited to work on.
Yeah.
So I discovered software engineering.
Also, if you're a software engineer or coder, you could work in any industry. You don't have to work. You could work in like health industry, banking industry, film industry, anything. Whereas if you're just a economics banker, you only work in that industry. So it's more versatile in a job where you could explore more varieties.
So I learned that in order to become a software engineer, all you really needed was know how to code. So I went on Google, typed how to...
It's all about your experience. Like, that's the main thing they ask when you're applying for a job. They care about your experience.
These are both completely free resources that I found online. The former introduced me to
And yes, Python is a good way to start, and like nowadays it's really popular. It's like I think the second popular language after Java. Like Python has grown dramatically in the last few years. So I would strongly recommend Python for beginners, and it's easier to understand. It's similar to English based, right? So you can read as you write. So like it's easier.
One of the most popular programming languages of today, and the latter introduced me to web programming. So I learned how to build a web page using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, and stuff like how the internet actually works.
With Python, you can use Flask framework or Django framework to build a website.
Put a web page on your computer, and I was absolutely fascinated by all of this. So the next step was to take a proper introductory course in computer science, and I decided to go for Harvard University's CS50, which you can do for free on edX, and I've done a review on it, which you can watch right here. Long story short, it's an excellent course. In fact, it's one of the best courses I've ever taken in my life.
Yeah, so like as he mentioned, like there is so many, free open sources for like learning computer science. It's like you could learn in your part time and still like understand what's happening and still learn to code in your part time and like have a part-time job as a software engineer, part-time as something else, because like it's becoming an essential skill for everyone.
Absolutely blown away. I came out of this course wanting to consume all the information there is in the world about programming. that's when I knew that this was the field that I really wanted to go into. CS50 was very challenging.
And also computer programming or like software engineering is always like an improving and advancing programs, and it's like an advancing job because you always had to constantly learn because there are new technologies being out every single like second, like a new technology is releasing every minute of your life, so you had to keep up to date. So if you're like learning, or if you're like learning something new, if you like to be updated on the new stuff, then programming is one of the best jobs.
It's hard. Programming is very difficult. The thing is, I really like working on difficult.
It's not difficult, it's hard to understand the concept. If you grasp the concept of coding and logic, then it becomes very simple. It's like 1 + 1 in mathematics business. It's like, remember at the start when you could add when you're like a baby or something, then you grasp the concept of addition, subtraction, multiplication, then after that you're like, oh, everything makes sense. Then multiplication, oh, you're like, oh, it's just a repetition of adding that creates multiplication, and division is a repetition of subtraction that causes division, isn't it? So it's just like that. So if you just understand the fundamental, and if you grasp the concept of programming, then you could build upon it, and it becomes very easy.
Problems like this, and by the way, this kind of problem solving is not for everyone, and that's completely fine. The problems out of the course absolutely kicked my ass, but I really embraced the challenge. From this course, I learned the C programming language, which got me introduced to the lower level implementation.
Yeah, C is most operating systems are built on C.
Like Python, the course does use Python as well, so I got even more comfortable with Python. I also got introduced to web programming, which I had already been doing as part of the.
Also, don't worry about learning as many languages as you want. Just learn one language like fully. Like you have a solid foundation, one language fully. Then you could always build on top of that and then just apply that same concept to different languages, like inheritance, object-oriented from Python. You could learn apply into Java. You could apply that into C. You could apply that to every language. The only difference in C is that it has garbage collector, which is like every other language is automated, whereas in C you have to write your own garbage collector. But other than that, everything is similar.
I also got introduced to how to use databases via SQLite, but most importantly, he taught me the fundamentals of how computers work at a low level.
That's the thing. If you understand that, then you could always work on top of that, isn't it? It's all about understanding the fundamental level.
Kind of an understanding of how computers actually work, because I will actually make you a better programmer down the line. And in case you're not aware of the difference, computer science studies how computers work, whereas programming is more like how do you practically create programs? How do you talk to computers together to do stuff? So the better you understand.
You're like you're a translator basically. That's what you are. You're getting like a requirement from your client and asking a programmer and asking a computer to solve that. So you're translating the problem into a language or a thing that the computer machine could understand, and that and complete the task that's asked by the client, isn't it?
Because the better you will always be as a software engineer or a programmer. As the final project of CS50, you're going to be building a full-fledged web application using the stuff that you learned in the course. So at this stage, you will essentially know how to code. You'll be able to build very simple things. It'll be a struggle, but you will have.
And programming or software engineering is all about becoming there. It's all about practice. You just have to keep on doing it, never giving up. Just keep on it. And you can make any project. You don't have to get a job to start applying your skills. Like become a software engineer, you could always find something like, oh, in my room there's like a chair. Let me create a leaflet or a website leaflet regarding all the information about the chair, where you could buy everything on a website. You could just do that, or like a sequence problem. You could build like a backend logic on that of how to solve Fibonacci sequence or anything like that. So everything around your world could be seen as a problem that could be solved in your computer using coding.
Understanding of what it means to build a front end of a website and what it means to build a back end of a website, and what sort of languages I use for all of these, and how to actually connect the front end with a back end using a framework like Flask, which is the one that you.
That's what I said, Flask or Django. You should start with Flask at the start, since Flask is very simplified and it's easier, whereas Django is applied to Flask, but it's like more advanced. Like it's confusing if you just start with Django.
Programming specifically. So I did CS50's follow-up course, web programming with Python
And JavaScript.
This course is essentially a continuation of the extremely engaging and exciting style of CS50, but it's just even more focused on web programming specifically rather than computer science as a whole. And be warned, this one moves at an even faster pace than CS50. You will know from my CS50 review that CS50 is very hard, and the continuation foundation course, CS50 Web, is even harder. Every single week, pretty much, you'll be building full-fledged web application. This time using the Django framework.
Yeah, Django, there we go.
Push you to get better.
And with Django, you should apply Vue rather than HTML for the front end.
Which you can then put on your portfolio later to apply for jobs. Again, they are
simple. So it's all about building portfolio, as I said, and it's better to use GitHub to store the repository into your GitHub account and share that with GitHub, like GitHub profile into your CV, and all of your employer, when you're applying for a job or something, all of the employer could just check what project you have been worked on and what you do, like how good you are with coding and all the language that you work, all the technologies that you have worked on, all the services that you worked on, everything like that, and the libraries that you have used. So from that, they could gain, okay, is this employer useful for us, or if they're not, and they can recruit you regarding that, right? It's all about having evidence or showing them that you have the ability and like you understand the concept of what they're looking for, and you can perform the task and stuff like that, right?
The stuff that you'll be able to build if you worked as a software engineer for a long time, but again, for entry-level jobs, they don't really require that elaborate stuff. It took me a while, but I came out of this course having a pretty decent understanding of web programming, to the point that now if I have an idea of building whatever, I can just go out and figure out how to build it on my own. I don't need a course to hold my hands anymore. That's really the goal of these courses.
It's all about just doing it yourself.
Where you know just enough so that you can go into the world yourself and build whatever.
And it's all about exploring. You just have to explore.
All these steps and you do them properly, you will now know how to code. I did this all in around 4 months. It might take you longer. If it does, that's completely fine. I had a lot of time to put into this.
It's all about how you grasp the concept, isn't it? Say some people could quickly grasp it since if they have a strong mathematical or logical background, then they could like quickly grasp the concept of programming or like the concept of computer science and stuff. Whereas if you're like new to mathematics, if you hate, like if you're from like a literature background and you're converting into software engineering, then you have to build up your maths background first and your logical background. Then you could understand programming from that point onwards.
Able to work on all of this for around a couple of hours each day is absolutely fine to take your time. But before I get all the experienced software engineer typing on my comments, you know how to create a simple web program? That's nothing. Look, hold on. I understand that coding is a skill that you will never really master. It's a field where you always need to keep learning new things.
As I mentioned, it's the improving subject, isn't it? Computer science is the only subject that's advancing dramatically year after year. So you have to be up to date or you will be left behind, isn't it? Because there's always new graduates who are coming out of university with the new concept, the new ideas. So if you're an old programmer, you always have to keep on updating to compute or be a competitor against those guys.
I say you will know how to code. I don't mean that you will be a master. I don't mean that you will be a great software engineer. What I mean is that you will know enough to start creating simple things. And you will know enough to get your foot in the door in the industry than to get your first job. In terms of web programming, for example, you will understand what the front end and back end means and how to connect them using a framework like Django or Flask. And you will sort of know how to navigate your...
And when you are applying for a job, it's all about your confidence, and confidence is shown by the amount of program or application that you have created and the amount of time you spent in your programming language or the given environment that you worked in, isn't it? So it's all about confidence. If you show your employer the confidence, you could do what they ask for, and like when they ask you a question, you give them beyond like their expectation and just like answer them and telling them that you know what this is, like trust me and give me the responsibility and I will make you happy or something like that, then they will forgive you.
In the tech world, and that is what I would call the first step of getting into the software engineering industry, and then when you get your first job, that's when you will keep improving down the line. Obviously, this field is something where you will need to become a lifelong learner. You need to be
exactly. You have to be constantly learning. They're still different with other subjects or other environment, other fields. Like you can learn up to like after you get a degree, you don't have to learn anymore. Whereas in computer science, it's a constant learning because new technology is being released every single day, right? As I mentioned before, so it's all about learning. That's it.
Might not be for you. I know it's for me because I love learning new things. That's why I'm so excited about this field. Just keeping learning.
Like same with me, I'm a computer science because I get bored so easy. So if there isn't something that new coming out every day, if I don't learn anything, I would just be so bored out of my mind. So it's like that's the only reason I chose computer science. Like is a process of applying something and gives you a results in the end, right? And you could apply that result into the useful thing in the world.
Think to yourself whether this is actually something that you want or that you don't want. But I will tell you that in this day and age, coding is sort of the closest thing that we have to a superpower. It's one of the most in-demand skills in the world.
Yeah,
so if
exactly.
you just learn enough coding to get your foot in the door, you'll pretty much
Just like, this is what I believe, like in the future, in like maybe in 50 years or in 100 years, when everything is managed by AIs and robots, developers gonna have a job because everything's going to be taken over by robots and AIs, right? And developers are the only one who could be able to manage the AI and further enhance and advance the AI or robotics. So that's the only jobs that's going to be available, like, and that's going to be like required from everyone. So it's always the job that will never disappoint. Let's put it that way.
good for the rest of your life. There is so much demand for these skills. There are so many jobs for software engineers, and no, it's not going to be replaced by AI anytime soon. If it does, please kill me. In fact, if you look at any of the predictions from people and my own opinion, there will just be more and more software engineering jobs in the future. And currently, there are not enough software engineers in the world.
Every year, the number of like jobs for software engineers is increasing, and the number of passed out is increasing at a slow rate, whereas the number of jobs needed, like number of people, is increasing exponentially. So that's the thing. That's why, like as I mentioned, like the number of jobs has been increased exponentially. That's why, like, if there isn't that many software engineers, software scientists out there in the world, like who's looking for a job, right? Because everyone's been like appointed or something. That's why they are happy to appoint like mathematician or people who have like a certification in computer science, just to like get them a job, right? Because companies are always looking for a job, and there isn't a mass available like computer scientists, whereas in people who doesn't management, business management, there's so many people who like in the environment that like looking for a job. So that's that.
I got slightly lucky because what actually happened is that during this process that I've described, I did a non-software engineering internship at a big company. It was a business kind of internship, and it just so happened that I was in a division that also hired some.
And also, it's always that first job that's hard. So it's always that first job. Like if you want to be a software engineer, it's always getting that first job, and make sure you are a software engineer at the first job. And the second job, when you're getting the second, third, fourth, it doesn't matter. They just look at your past job and the title as a software engineer. Then you could always get a job through that. And the first job will always guarantee you a job after that company, right? Because software engineers are always needed.
Yes, I did well at the internship, and they wanted to give me a return offer. So I just asked them, hey, would it be possible to get that return offer as a software engineer? Because actually I've been learning coding, so I was basically just able to convince them of my potential and motivation.
Yes, it's all about the content. I told you.
To give my return offer as a software engineer. So you could say that I got slightly lucky. But what this goes to show is that you should always ask. You should always try before you think you're ready.
Simple, yeah.
I was around 2 months into my process,
And the concept is that nothing's impossible.
to actually apply for software engineer jobs directly. What this goes to show is that try before you think you're ready. You never know what's going to happen. And even if I hadn't got this job, I think with my skills now, I would certainly be able to apply for software engineer jobs directly.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Side projects I've done in my portfolio.
Even like in the marketplace, right? Even like major company will look for a degree, but there are always some small companies or budget companies who are happy to hire anyone with the right knowledge or like the right requirement that you could offer to the company, right? And who matches their requirements. If you are a startup company and and they want to get a web developer or something, and you know how to design a web application, and you have some portfolio or like some sample work in your GitHub account, and if you could show them and they're happy or like they're excited, like they really appreciate the technology that you used, and they are happy that you're a close match to their requirement, and they will hire you, right? So it's like, and there's so many startup companies in this world and every company needs a software engineer because everyone wants to like put everything into a technological format, right? Because that's the thing that's going to be like lasting long. That's the thing. Always build projects.
Computer science itself, and I'm doing this completely on my own. I don't pay for anything.
But the thing is, it's always better to build your GitHub portfolio, then you could always do anything after that.
sure you'll love it. Go watch.
Yeah, I think I don't want to hear about that. It's all little. I don't want to hear about Notion. Yeah, I think that's a good video. He mentioned everything that he did, and like he said the main thing where Google is your best friend, and you can find anything about coding or becoming a software engineer free online. Because there's so many people who are like advertising anything, even like just computer science. You could find anything. Like you want to learn some economics, game theory, you could study that online. Anything is there. All the in Udemy and Skillshare, I believe there are some classes available, so just check them out. And yeah, anyone could be a coder, and I think in 50 or 100 years in the future, computer science will be an essential skill, or like, coding will be an essential skill for everyone. It's like when you're in secondary school, it's like learning another language is useful, or like some school, like in the UK, everyone has to learn another language in secondary school and do it as their GCSE, right? So like, I believe coding will be like that in the future. Okay then, cheers. Make sure you smash the like button for the YouTube algorithm and subscribe. See you next time. Bye.